Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing fantastic. So, the question was brought to me the other day. What marketing advice would you give to a new small business owner? And that was a fantastic question. Now, immediately, whenever I started working out my thoughts on that, I think it turned more of a general business advice rather than a marketing advice question. What advice, what business advice would I give to a new business owner? And so those are some of the things that I'm going to talk about now. I've really got about 7 points here, 7 things. There could be more, frankly, but I'm going to talk about the 7 things that I would want to give you advice on when it comes to running your new business. Number 1, and this is above all else. Maybe it's not above all else, but it's certainly up there. That's why I've got it in my top 7. And that is, don't give up. Don't give up. Because that's where so many businesses fail. They give up. They start off, they have a hunger to do something great, and then things don't always work out like the way that you hope they would, like in the first year. I mean, statistically, most new businesses fail in the first year or in the first couple of years. They just can't hang in there. They give up. But there's people that have gone before you that you can learn from. There's tools and ways and places to go where you can learn about these practices and strategies to make your business succeed. So seek out those people, seek out those tools. The Small Business Development Center is one. Get involved in your local chamber of commerce, like the Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce, where I'm a part of. Get involved. There's a lot of people that you can surround yourself with that you can really learn from. So that's a very quick point, but the first one is just don't give up. Just don't give up, okay? The second piece of advice that I'd want to give to a new business owner is to listen to your audience. Now, you have an idea, you have something that you want to provide to the world, a service, a product that you want to provide. So then you've got to start testing it. You've got to start offering it to people. Once you do that, you perform the service, you sell the product, listen to their feedback. So make sure that you take the time to listen to the people that you're trying to sell to. Let me tell you about the biggest failure. Maybe not, I don't know if I really want to call it the biggest failure. Whenever I started my own journey of entrepreneurship and why it didn't really work, it was because I had an idea for a product that I wanted to create to scratch my own itch. And so I spent a lot of time and a lot of money trying to scratch that itch. I created an app, a mobile app, to help solve that problem. But at the end of the day, it almost seemed like I was the only one who was concerned about solving that problem. Or maybe to me, it was only a problem to me. Because then, after spending tons of time, tons of money, or at least tons of money to me at the time, I started to try to sell it into the marketplace, into my target marketplace. And nobody was interested. It was a total flop. You know, I had a couple people that were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but nobody bought it. And as I look back, my first mistake was not listening to my target audience first. I didn't solicit them first to say, or at least get a few people together, say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I was more concerned about losing the proprietary rights to the idea, I guess, than I was actually serving other people. So I spent a lot of money creating an app, hiring a freelancer on Upwork to create an app for me that basically I was the only one to use. And that was back in the industrial sales days. So learn from my mistake and listen to your audience first. See what they want first and sell them that. It may be just a slight modification on what you're already doing, but listen to your audience and help serve their needs. So that's your second point right there. Your third point that I want to give to you is kind of coattails off of that. It's don't be afraid to pivot. Pivot. Like the what Ross said on the show Friends a long time ago. It's hilarious. Don't be afraid to pivot. So if you take that idea, you sell it, and then you get some feedback that says, no, I think we'd kind of like to have something a little different. Or if it were delivered this way, or if it solved this problem a little different. Don't be so married to your idea that you can't pivot slightly and then lose future opportunities. Now, you've got to kind of balance. You've got to kind of balance this, because everybody may think they have a better idea for what you do than you do. And so if you listen to 10 different people and all 10 have different ideas for you, you may not need to go in 10 different directions. I'd probably leverage something like a mastermind. Get involved in a good mastermind group of people that you trust, and that you, like I said, that you trust their advice. So you've got a room of 10 people, and then you kind of get the collective objective viewpoint of a lot of other people, business owners, hopefully, that have gone before you and can kind of see, okay, if you go this way, you might run into this problem, but if you go this way, you'll probably be all right. So masterminds are great for that, but don't be afraid to listen to your audience. That was number 2. And then number 3 was don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to make that adjustment in your product, your service, your delivery, your follow-up, something like that. The 4th point that I want to make for a new small business owner is to make sure that the direction that you're, I wrote this down, so excuse me while I read this. Make sure the direction you are going, that you are going, tracks the destination that you want to be. Probably the best way that I can think of to describe this is whenever I was learning navigation to get my private pilot's license, what you have to do, or what you need to keep in mind, is that 1 degree off on your tracking over the course of several miles can get you way off course. From this VOR nav point, from this navigation point, if you're just 1 degree off and you're only a couple miles, you're not even going to notice. But if you're 1 degree off and you're 60 miles out, now you're miles off course. So make sure that the direction you are going tracks with the destination that you want to be. And that's going to take some time to try to sit down and do some introspective thinking, some praying about where you need to be in 5 years, in 10 years. Where do you want to be? And the answer is not always laying on a beach, drinking sweet tea with nothing to do. That's not always the answer. But where do you want to be in your business, in your life, in your relationships? So track that. And if the pivot that you take, that we were talking about in the 3rd point, if the pivot that you take takes you off that course, then you got to fix it, because that ain't right. That's not where you want to be. It may not be where God calls you to be. The 5th point that I would try to advise a new business owner is to try to work yourself out of a job. I know that seems kind of counterintuitive, especially early on. And early on, it would be counterintuitive. But here's the thing. As you get started, you're wearing all the hats. You're wearing the sales and marketing hat. You're wearing the deliverables. You're delivering the goods, that you're delivering the services. You wear the billing, the bookkeeping, the accounting. You're wearing all the different hats. So as you grow, you get a little more cash flow. You outsource a little bit more of the work. You get a little more cash flow. You outsource more of the work, to where you're working, or you're automating. You're using some sort of automation tool like Infusionsoft or something like that. You're either using tools to automate, or you're hiring people to help take that workload off of you. Now, what's got to happen in that process is that you develop your systems and processes so that you can hand off those roles. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck doing all the work all the time for the rest of your life. And I don't think that's why you wanted to start a new business. You wanted to start a new business for the freedom, for the time, for the joy that you get out of creating something and serving others and earning an income in the process. So as you build the business, try to work yourself out of a job by outsourcing more, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, to where you become the owner of the business, not just a worker bee in your own business. A couple books that I'd reference for that would be Clockwork by Michael Michalowicz, and then also E-Myth Revisited. Both of those are golden when it comes to building a systematic, profitable business for yourself. So check those two out. The sixth point that I would like to give you is, for now, since you are new, if you're new and you're watching this, new business, your primary mission is sales. The idea that if you build it, they will come is a myth. It is a myth. It's a myth. It's just because you start something doesn't mean that people are automatically going to rush towards you. You've got to sell it. You've got to market it. You've got to get the people in the door. So your number one mission is sales. What's a danger for so many people is that we get so close. Donald Miller talks about the curse of knowledge in his book, Story Brand. We're so close to our business when we try to sell it. We talk a lot of technical stuff. I did this today. I was meeting with a prospective client, and I do this all the time. They ask a question, can your system do this? And then I think about it, and I think, yes. Yes, if I do this and I use the custom fields and I drop the code into this part of the email, and then I use the automation for this, and then, I'm playing it out in my mind, describing it to them, and then I get a blank stare from my prospect, and then I stop myself and I say, hold on. Yes, the answer is yes, it can work. It will work. So whenever you're selling your products and selling your services, make sure that you're not describing it at your level of knowledge, at the level 10 that you understand it, but more so in a way that is simple and concise, where your prospect or your customer can understand what you're talking about, so that it makes sense to them. And it actually shows more knowledge on your part, just being able to say it simply, concise, clear, rather than trying to go into all the details, so that you're not just trying to wow them and impress them with your vast knowledge of your product or service. So the seventh piece of advice that the last piece of advice that I would want to give to you, to anybody that listens or watches this, is probably the most important. At least it is to me. And I want you to really take this home. It's especially important to me as a believer, as a follower of Christ. And this is the crux of the whole matter right here. For a new business, an old business, anybody in business, anybody working to make a living, anybody trying to make it happen, you pray like it all depends on God, but you work like it all depends on you. Or you can say that the other way around. You work like it all depends on you, but you pray like it all depends on God. And so when you take that approach, it's not just going to push it all off on God and say, God, if you're willing, send me all the clients that I need. And then you sit on your keister and nothing happens. Because if you don't work, it ain't going to happen. God's going to meet you in the middle of this. He's going to bring you the return of your labor. It goes just like the parable of the talents. He gives He gave 1 talent. He gave 5 talents. He gave 10 talents. And for those people that, for those guys in that parable that took those talents and worked on it, God provided an income, an increase to those talents. And so whenever you work like it all depends on you, but pray like it all depends on God, God will meet you with the work. He will meet you with the income, with the return that He is going to bless you with. And this is not necessarily a prosperity message. This is a work for it message, and God will bless you. So keep your heart and mind fixed on God. This is, I usually leave this to the business podcast or the business aspect of the show. But I guess it's turning into a bit of a preachy message. But that's okay, because frankly, that's who I am. Okay, so I'm talking that through as I'm talking to you. So bear with me. So that's the 7 things that I want to leave you with as a new business owner. Number 1 is don't give up. Number 2, listen to your audience. Listen to your target market. Number 3 is don't be afraid to pivot. Once you've listened to them and the majority, you kind of think of the statistical bell curve. If there's a majority of people that say, you know what, this right here this would better suit me, by George, you better sell what better suits them. Otherwise, there won't be anybody to buy from you. Number 4, make sure that you take the direction. Make sure the direction that you are going tracks with the destination that you want to be. So even though you try to pivot, don't pivot so much that it gets you off track of where you want to be in your life. Number 5, try to work yourself out of a job. Don't try to be the hero that does every single thing or controls every single thing in your business. You've got to relinquish the control to grow. Frankly, you do. John Maxwell, he said it in one of his books that I can't remember which one, about the 80-20 rule. If somebody, it's not the 80-20 rule, but if somebody can do a job 80% as good as you can, you should hand it off to them. Because no one, in many cases, no one's going to do everything as perfectly as you could or that you would expect them. But at least if somebody can do it 80% as good as you can, give it to them. Now, there's folks within my agency that work with me that they can do something 100 times better than I can. Yes, I will absolutely hand it off to them. Some of that is graphic design. I've got some folks that are absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't even think of design that good. That's why I hand it to them. The 6th point that I had made was about your first mission right now is sales. You've got to maintain the focus of growth, growth, growth. So, and all these kind of work together. And the last thing is work like it all depends on you, but pray like it all depends on God. With that said, I'll sign off. Y'all have a fantastic day, and stay in touch.